Hello and welcome back to another episode of RxCraft. I am Amaros and this is my lab. Well, actually, my machine room, but you know, who's counting? Today we're actually going to be building our witch farm on this server. We don't have one yet, and unfortunately this seed doesn't have any at all worthwhile witch hut spawns. The closest I could find was about 120 blocks apart, maybe 140 I think it was. Somewhere in that range, and it's way in the heck behind me in that direction there. But we have a witch hut that is actually nearby, and I'll show you where it's at. But this will allow us to get quite a few different types of resources, you know, one of which is going to be redstone, very important, and glowstone is definitely going to be useful for us, and some gunpowder. Since we don't yet have a mob farm, it'll actually give us some gunpowder for TNT and all those happy explosives, but we need to actually go build it first. So we're gonna go ahead and head outside and track that down. The closest witch hut that we have near our base is actually in our swamp, just over here to the west. And looks like hopefully it's not gonna start raining on us. If it does, I'm sorry. Yep, lightning. I think that's the first one I've seen on camera. But we have it over here in our swamp, and it's actually on the north end over here. Let's turn on our glider. There we go. So much easier to get across. And there it is. That's from mine caving before. Let's go ahead and drop here. We are going to build our witch hut into a nice little witch farm instead. So I'm gonna find a nice little place to start setting up shop and get some of this stuff kind of set out so we can get prepared. Alright, we have made our little safe hole in the woods here. So now we got a chest with some of our stuff, our ender chest, and our caches and some lava. I think we are ready to get going on our build. So let's go ahead and get down there to do that. So I begun tracing out our roof over our witch farm area, and we're already getting a few mobs because we're technically not supposed to put torches up there. I hope these don't count. Oh, come on. A little further than he looks. But I'm going for this nice little look here. We got some chiseled blocks, and we got some standard stone bricks here. We got this little half moon in this purple swirly obsidian stuff, and this one's just a moon and black obsidian. I think it gives it a nice little witchy feel. I've had to make a few runs back to our base to pick up an assortment of supplies for when we actually get building in the witch hut itself, for like the spawning platforms. Once we get this entire roof laid out, that's our next step. We'll be putting the spawning platforms starting at this center block here, and then totally wiping out the witch hut in general. So I'm just going to be repeating this outside pattern, and yeah, we'll probably just do some bricks with maybe some iron blocks in the middle. I'm thinking we're just going to do some standard blocks. I don't know, maybe I'll pick some shiny ones like these here and place them like so. Maybe come up with some kind of decent pattern. I know Terkanil wants to come over and help a little bit, so maybe I'll enlist his help on some of the design aspects of it, because you know, I am not that great with designs just off the cuff. It usually takes me quite a while, and it usually doesn't come out quite as nice as I would hope. But, you know, yeah, I do what I can. So, I'll go ahead and get this finished out. Alright, we have our ceiling put in. We just need to half slab it now, and Terkanil wants to take care of that portion for us. He's having a little bit of fun jumping around on these travel anchors that I placed. We now have a bridge that goes back to my base in case if we need some resources ASAP. But I'm going to go ahead and start doing the underside, such as leveling the witch hut, getting the platforms in place. We don't have to use straight up redstone like the tutorial has, so I'm thinking we're going to interlace some gold and iron in there while keeping some of the redstone so we can light up the redstone lamps as necessary. So let me go ahead and go down and do that portion. But it's starting to look pretty nice. These chiseled blocks on the outside definitely give it a little bit of flair over the standard brick. I'm kind of liking it so far. Oh, and the other cool thing is these look like kind of like eyeballs from underneath. You can see. So I think that definitely gives it a nice flair. Alright, so Terkanil is working on our ceiling design. And he's doing a nice little Triforce design, it looks like, trying to one-up me on this design, I guess. I don't think it's all that special or anything, but we got it rimmed with redstone except for a little end here and here. Might change that out just to make it triangles with a line, but I think it has a pretty good color combination. And we get a go and lay down our redstone underneath as well. It needs to be at this level, which is rather spacious here. It's 1, 2, 3 tall, but 8. Apparently that's where it needs to be. So we're going to just block this out. Actually, probably what I'll do first is dig down a little bit and quarry ourselves a hole about 40 or so deep. We are at Y62, so that'll take us most of the way to bedrock. I might actually go to about 11 or so. Hopefully we don't hit lava. I've already gone and caved a lot in this area here, so if I go away and come back, there will be about 7 witches sitting right on top of that platform. I already had to clean it off once, so I definitely know this is going to work pretty well for us. Quite pleased with how it's behaving so far, so let me go ahead and clear this out then, and we'll get a quarry going instead. Alright, we are ready to turn our quarry on. I watched the tutorial a little bit, and we actually want to go down to Y33 to place hoppers, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have to go down another 5 or 6 below that. But to do the rest of our stuff, so I'll just let this quarry run to about 33 and we'll go from there. It shouldn't be too bad to dig out this much more down, maybe 3 levels, so we'll just let it go to 33 and go from there. So I'm back in the penalty box. I'm thinking we should probably put yellow crime scene tape around this place instead of nice decorations, because it seems we only come here after we get murdered by something. In my case, I did not help our job site safety numbers, not one bit. Apparently, I tossed an ender pearl into one of the caves down the quarry pit that we made, and it glitched into gravel or something, and I ended up in a wall and promptly died pretty quick. So Fortunately, a lot of my important items, such as my helmet and such, item elevated themselves up to the surface through about 10 blocks of cobble and whatnot, because I was right under the platform I had dug out. But I did lose a couple of items, one of which was my wonderful leggings, and the other was my Silk Touch pickaxe. And I had gone and cleared out a little bit of a cave that the quarry discovered, and so we lost some redstone ore, and surprisingly I kept the lapis ore. That somehow made it out, and the useless stuff like copper ore and some sticks. So yeah, not sad at all. No, not sour or anything. Yeah. So, penalty box and experience from Enderman. Joys. You know, this farm is a lot more tolerable when you set hostile mobs to mute. No more Enderman. My spidey senses are tingling. Apparently, Terkanil has decided to join us in our end farm. And judging from the new color scheme, I think he is trolling us. Silently mocking our penalty box. Yeah. I think it'll be a pretty good color scheme for this place. Well, our new Enderman farm wall design is a penalty box. Oh, and we did add this little mechanism here that extracts Enderman heads into this chest to keep the pipes from getting clogged. Not sure if I showed you or not. We have made some more progress on our witch farm. We have this array of redstone here with comparators. Basically, our furnaces here will generate a strong enough signal to extend to just this comparator here and shy of that one, so this one won't light up and thus not light up the comparator. That way we can send just a single set of signal to the row that's affected here. We have the sand with a piston underneath to do a pulse shortener, so it just gets a quick single pulse. Looks like I need to put our blocks here. These will connect to send another signal down. But this will have one, maybe two rows shift at a time to let all the witches wiggle through. We're going to reflect it over here. But I went and finished out our bottom floor here, put the fence gates in with the 90-degree turn. And this will be repeated up here, just a little shorter. These redstone lamps are actually on right now since they're touching the redstone, but they're actually going to be retracted by sticky pistons that's going to be controlled by a lever. And that will allow us to turn on and off our farm. So I'm going to keep going and working on this. I'll get this side mirrored out with what I got over here, and we'll half slab it up. I just wanted to show you before we actually got all the half slabs in, and we'll have to start work on level 2. We have side number 2 done. Just about to close up shop here. We got our second bit of sand and furnace at this level here. We're gonna have to dig this down one more so that we can access the furnaces here from this side, peeking through here. And so this is kind of actually maybe 2 down. We'll have to do something like that, and then dig down a couple like so. Now we can access this furnace there and this one. And now we're going to go ahead and half slab over all of this. We got our tripwire hooks here to match up with those to trigger all of the floor. So we're almost done with this level. We've finished our farm proper area here. What we did is put some half slabs on top of an array of hoppers, iron golem. We made a nice little room. And since this does have a little bit of a capacity problem, if you funnel all the hoppers to one corner, they might get clogged and backed up. We pointed all the hoppers at the edge here and then just used the item conduits from Ender.io to feed into these thermal expansion caches for each of the items that the witches drop. And then we have an Ender chest over there, well, a Enderium based strong box to store everything that's left over if a slime falls or if a zombie comes down and drops his flesh, then it'll go into that kind of overflow box. But the caches will allow us to hoard quite a copious amount of each of these glitchy item frames. There we go. So I think we're gonna get some pretty good numbers out of this. We've already had some witches falling. I went and put a travel anchor down there so we can actually just port straight into this room to pick anything up that we might need, and we can port back out. And we got a more permanent one over there in the trees so we can kind of hop back to my base. But the project we're in the middle of right now is making this nice little moat of sorts to increase the efficiency by preventing spawnable areas outside of our farm here. That way we don't have to go and torch everything. We're just making a nice little one deep bit of water here. And we're gonna try to get it a fair distance around the witch farm here so that we can idle in a platform a little higher than that, but straight above the witch farm. Make a nice little bubble of spawning. Hopefully the only parts that'll be touching will be the middle of the witch farm that we've now half slabbed off, and this perimeter here of the water. The higher we go, the more tighter this ring becomes, but then we also have a chance of having the witches despawn as they fall into our pit. And we don't want to lose them before they hit the bottom, so we kind of have to make a sphere out. And I'm thinking it's about 32 blocks out from this, maybe even a little further. So I'm going to go ahead and keep digging this. And it's probably going to take a little bit, but I think it'll be well worth it when these item drops start coming. Definitely well worth it. Well, here is a prank that went very, very wrong. The chunk loader that was in Terkanil's base apparently has been running all day, and you can kind of see the frame rates we're getting with this sea of white, red, and orange. So I'm going to go ahead and disable and kill a few of these, and he's going to come back with about, I don't know, maybe 1,000. That ought to be a pretty good number. Well, after a lot of digging and flooding, we have cleared a nice perimeter around our witch farm. You can see here quite a bit has been cleared. Took a little while, and the lily pads are encroaching apparently. But we also added this nice little feature here. We brought a nice little repeater off and buried it under this channel here and took it up this nice little redstone torch tower up to an idle platform here. This will give us an indicator of how well our witch farm is working, and I've actually been kind of disappointed at the rate that this thing runs. It takes it a little bit to get warmed up, and then my torch just kind of goes off every now and then, but it only pulls about half of each floor, because it pulls about half on the bottom and about half on the top. So I would have to put another signal off of here and run it around and merge it in with this to get the full effect from the farm. But even at half, as you can see, it's not even really lighting up. Let's see. I'm gonna recharge my little staff here. We can go out of range and come back and show you kind of how it looks when it's working. There we have gone more than 128 blocks. We can pop back real quick. And we should see the witch farm start to kick in and this torch light up here. I've also noticed that a lot of slimes like to spawn after idling overnight. And even with idling overnight a few times now, about 3 or 4, we still only have 10,000 sticks and about 5,000 of each of the sub-items, which is significantly lower than I would have expected. We do have our position right now at 159, which minus 128 puts us at about 31 for the depth, and our hoppers are all at 32 or 33, right in that range. So we should still have the witches landing on the hoppers and dying. Yep, see, there's some activity right there. Well, looks like a few of them trying to shake the witches loose there. So it does work, it's just very slow, and I'm not entirely sure why. You can see Terkanil did a pretty good job on our little Triforce here. It's upside down from our perspective because I chose this side of the farm rather than the far side because we had better opportunity to take advantage of existing water, and we didn't really have a whole lot of high land that we would have been over, like here. So didn't want to clear that out. Thinking of how best to get rid of the slimes, though. And we could always just cheat and use a nice little quarry system all the way around here, because they can go 64 by 64 in size. And it would take just 8 of them or so to really hollow out the surrounding area. But I've already gone through and caved all of this area, so there shouldn't be any dark spots within range. You could see that failed to load chunk. I got a torch right there, and I think about right here is about the closest dark cave area that might exist, and just further over is my slime farm, so I know that's all lit up around. So we should get fairly high rates, and just not. So if you know why, go ahead and post your comments. Yeah, let's see. That's what it looks like working. We got proper light levels in here. I got my gamma, well, alpha turned up pretty high. Looks like we're at BL 0 and 1 right here along the edge. 1, 2, 4, 3. We can pop down here. Since we're right in the same chunks, we're not going to get any spawns. But being this close, it's not really doing anything. Popping over here doesn't really seem to do much. I had our idle platform up a little higher, and it wasn't really spawning too much different, but I'm sure they were despawning by the time they hit the ground. So I noticed I came down here that the hoppers were full of items. Not necessarily like terribly full, but they had quite a few items queued up in them, maybe 1.5 hoppers worth. So the reason why is this section here was missing from when I moved this over to here. Let's see how many sticks that moved. Yeah, about 1,000 sticks, it looks like. Maybe 500. So, not a whole lot, but still. It explains a little bit of why we weren't getting anything during our little experiments upstairs. And I did make some modifications, such as putting a bunch of torches out. It won't help the slime stop spawning, but it'll keep down on some of the usual mob spawns. And I did lower this platform down a few blocks, so we are a little closer, just to ensure that we don't have any witches that despawn as they fall and hit the hoppers. But that also made us need to put our torches out a little bit more to kind of get that bubble filled out there. It might even reach as far as here, but right now we're at what? Y 155. So we're still pretty good, pretty well covered. I think it goes all the way down to Y22 now. Yeah, a little bit of overkill on the closeness, but better safe than sorry. And obviously it's still not working very efficiently, but we'll have to idle overnight and see. Well, the one downside about just hollowing this out to water instead of actually half slabbing the entire area, we end up with a few slimes. Of course, we could just kind of kill them all and make it kind of a rudimentary slime farm, or find some way to surround them with lava, maybe right around the edge here. But we just teleport away, they despawn, and we can go back. No biggie. Oh no, out of power. Well, I did make one more tweak here. I actually moved our idle platform kind of right up against our witch farm. We got one chunk starting about here before we hit the actual spawning platforms. And for some reason, this exact spot does better than, say, here. And we've been letting this sit for, almost 13, 14 minutes now. I'm just curious to see what it's done. Oh, see, there's a witch right there. So, out of just barely over 10 minutes, you can see we've already piled up 4 or 5 of each in each hopper here, which, oh, that one had 9, 8, 11 sticks. So I think our efficiency is slightly improved with where we're at. And as you can see, these last couple hoppers, I think the witches are actually spawning as they come down. I'm thinking we might have to move forward 2 blocks, but it really wasn't being that efficient when I did that. So I don't know. Maybe go down 2 blocks instead. Or actually, should only need 1 block because the base of the sphere is like right there. So maybe down 1 block and we should be good. We did idle here overnight and we are now up to 2,400 or 24,000 sticks and about 11,000 redstone. Yeah, almost 12. And, you know, that's a few days. It's been a little bit, so just been kind of working this out, trying to figure out what's been going on with our drop rates here. But now that we got that mystery solved, I think we can move on to our next project and thus our next episode. So, you have liked this episode, go ahead and hit that like button and be sure to subscribe so you can see what we have next on our plate. We have a little bit of efficiency still to work out. It's not entirely where I'd like it, so be sure to leave those comments if you have any ideas. And we'll see you next time. Have a good evening.